now is going to be with you. Okay.
I'm up. You sure?
I'm sure.
We're back with another episode. First, the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out a complete list of the sponsors. They're also listed down below. So, I'm going to turn my cans down. They're a little loud. To everybody coming in, feel free to chat. Feel free to send in any questions you have. Let's thank some of the sponsors now. Gallo Technologies, Rhino Metals, Blackwater Ammunition. I want to thank Enforce Weapon Lights, Pulsar, Thermal Imaging Technologies coming down in price. Go check out Pulsar. Volquartsen Firearms. Big shout out to Scott Volquartsen. Appreciate them. Right On Optics. Appreciate everybody over at Right On. Can't thank them enough. Galco Leather Holsters. Appreciate Galco. And we appreciate, of course, Kenzie's Optics. Shout out to Keith and those guys. All right, we got a special guest today I'm excited to have on. Can't thank him enough. This is a big moment. One of my older friends in the business. We go back. We're going to get into that. We got the king of fabric, the king of suppressor covers. I think he's the only game in town that does it. We got Dustin Coleman from Cole Tac.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
It's good to have you.
That's quite the title there. I don't know.
Yeah, pull that close. Pull it closer. Yeah, you can pull. No, pull closer.
Okay.
You can pull. Yeah, it's
All
quite the title. It's a big title to live up to.
All right. I'll do my best.
Do your best. Listen, we were talking about this offline. Yep. This is a guy, to everybody listening, that started a business in his fucking closet in the defense business, and now 18, 20 employees knocking on the door.
18 employees.
And counting.
Yeah, we need more. We're short.
So how did you get to this point where you were like, I'm going to have this business, I'm going to do this thing, and what made you even think about getting into soft goods?
Well, I mean, so I've always kind of had this passion for firearms, and at the time, I was an engineer for Ruger Firearms out there.
Yeah, I remember that.
And started shooting suppress. So I needed a suppressor cover. My wife, or my first time out, I bought somebody else's. First time out, I absolutely destroyed it. And
what is it? First, explain to everyone the reason you need a suppressor cover, because I don't think people realize.
Right. Well, so yeah, it's kind of a small niche that some people don't realize. So a suppressor is basically a muffler on a car. It gets really, really hot, really, really fast with very little shooting. So, within 10 shots, some of these suppressors are getting in the 800-900 degree temperature range, depending on what you're shooting, and so you either end up burning yourself, melting other gear, and that's the kind of thing that I always talk to people. If you start shooting suppress, it's like, have you burnt yourself yet? And they're like, no, not yet. And it's like, it's going to happen. Everybody inevitably
burns themselves
because they get so stupid hot. And then, the other big issue when you're shooting longer distances with a suppressor, you get this mirage coming off the suppressor that just makes it impossible to really see your target. So, the cover helps mitigate all those issues. So bought one. It
destroyed it.
Asked my wife, "Hey, can you fix this?" And she's like, then the question, well, how much did you pay for it? And she got pissed at me that I spent that much money on it. And she's like, I could have made something so much better for less. I'm like, all right, let's play around. Engineering background, she's a sewing wizard. Made one, and then my buddies at Ruger, I was out shooting with them. They wanted one, and then it was like, set up a small...
Then you're like, fuck this Ruger thing.
No, it wasn't like that at all. It was like, we're going to set up this, small little website. We'll sell a couple here and there just as like a side thing out of the spare bedroom for her. But a little, 2 foot by 3 foot table that we were cutting. We would cut the fabric on it. We'd take the sewing machine, set it on top, sew it, and then and it just kind of snowballed from there. Where we started doing more, and then it took over our basement. Then we built our garage with a whole second story, and that we were talking. You came out and saw that place
towards the tail end of that, I think, right?
Yeah, that was we were only in that building for we built this garage, and by the time it was done, we could only use it for 6 months.
That's growth.
Because we outgrew it. And then so we bought a building down the road, and then made it there 2-ish years, and then outgrew that. And now we're in a 10,000 square foot facility downtown. Since then we've started another manufacturing facility over in Europe that manufactures everything for the European market, so we don't have to export out of the U.S. And then now we're actually getting ready to open up another location, a manufacturing location out in South Dakota, just because we have so many things that we want to do, but we don't have enough people. And we've kind of, the town that we're in, it's smaller.
Live free or die.
Live free or die. But yeah, it's smaller, it's remote and rural. And so, there's just not enough people for what we're trying to do. So it's kind of ballooned.
When did you know you had something? What was the moment? Did you get some ridiculous order? Or were you like, oh shit?
No. I've always kind of been
paced.
Yeah, but it's also I still don't think in my head, because I'm always looking at the next thing.
Right.
I haven't made it. I'm still going and trying to grow. So I don't know if I've ever hit that. Oh yeah, I've made it now. A big step for me was leaving Ruger and doing this full time. Scary, super scary. That was, my wife and I, we have 4 kids, and in your head, you're always thinking
fuck.
And I moved out to New Hampshire for Ruger. That was my dream job. So dream company. It was, yeah, it was amazing. And, and I love it. I love them. It was great, but it was a real gut check to say, all right, we're going to do this on our own. And, and it was, when I first left, it was oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, I'll have so much spare time. I'll be able to do all this fun stuff, but I'm, worried, will I have enough work to keep me busy? And it's been the exact opposite. I've been more busy ever since then, and trying to add on to it. It's been kind of crazy.
And sourcing and doing everything in America, in the United States, is a big deal. And it's a big deal for you personally.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, like I said, we have manufacturing over in Europe, but all that stuff stays over there, and it's a smaller little facility.
And there's reasons.
Right. But everything here in the U.S., we're, sourced as far as materials go here in the U.S., and we're cutting and sewing everything in our own shop in New Hampshire. And I mean, manufacturing is hard. That's really the hard. It's hard, but it allows us some flexibility as far as, we can try smaller runs worth of stuff. We can take risks on designs, and not have to order this giant inventory. But the equipment, the process, it's not very common in the U.S. to be sewing. There's not a lot of us. You think about metalwork. You can go to any town and find a machine shop if you need a widget spun out of metal. They're out there. And so that knowledge base is already here, where sewing, it's not nearly as common.
Yeah, explain to everyone, because I don't think people understand how much of the soft goods market has been gobbled up by China and by the Philippines, and you get into that, because I don't think people get it really, Dustin, how much of it has really gone overseas.
By far majority, I have no idea what percentage, but my gut tells me 80% of it's happening overseas, and I think I might be even underestimating that. And it's the problem is it's a very labor intensive process. Because it's fabric, fixturing and holding it is tough. So then automating it gets really difficult. So it kind of comes down to having skilled people, manually putting parts together, which, U.S. labor is expensive, but it's at a quality and, price. It's a quality that you can't get from over there. And it allows us also to focus on some niches that, they won't even bother with.
Do you think it'll ever come back?
No, the average U.S. consumer would not want to pay what it actually costs for like clothing. We like having cheap, quick, disposable clothing, and like I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think you'll see there's some people who are getting it, but like kind of what happened last spring with medical PPE, we got stuck in a pretty deep hole as far as a country because we sat there and relied solely on foreign manufacturing. And there were some of us who tried stepping up and taking over some of that production, and we made a whole bunch. We made 60,000 disposable gowns in a matter of 3 months last spring.
It's crazy.
It was a wild adventure. But as soon as Asia started catching back up with all the PPE, we got dropped. Everyone else who I knew who was making PPE, like, oh no, we don't need you guys anymore. And it's like, all right, I guess we didn't learn anything. And that was a matter of like 3 months. We had a whole bunch of people like in April. We need U.S. stuff because we can't get it from Asia. By the time August hit, they're like, screw you guys, we're out. And it's like, all right, whatever. But see, and that's why I like, at least with the firearms industry, I think the general firearms person is more pro, U.S. manufactured, is willing to pay for, the higher labor rates and then, know that they're going to have a company that stands behind their stuff. I mean, we've got a no BS customer service policy. Like anything ever happens, we fix it, replace it, do whatever. And I think the firearms community accepts that and appreciates that more than other industries.
Why do you think that hasn't trickled out of the firearms industry a little bit more to, especially now with everything going on, people weren't more pro, I'm willing to pay a little bit more to get something quality that people are going to stand behind. Do you have a theory on it? Is it just disposable cheap clothes?
Yeah, I think it's just, people don't want to pay $175 for a pair of blue jeans. And like, that's probably, I have no idea. I've never looked into what it would take, but
you should.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It would be expensive to make a pair of blue jeans. And then the problem is it's like one style, like people want all these different options and they want them cheap. And it's like, and I get it. As I wear a pair of Levi's that weren't made here.
Because like you said, it's almost impossible now, right? To find it. I know there's other brands out there trying to develop U.S. manufacturing capabilities, trying to build up U.S. manufacturing capabilities, but doing that on a larger scale, because the big thing is the scale, right?
Right.
To do it. And I know we've had like Tyler Merritt from Nine Line, there's other brands that are really trying to do a lot of it here. And people have to realize, because there are those diehard or made in the USA people, it's hard to do it all. It's very hard.
It's difficult. And even for us, we're building everything here in the US, but like in the end, our equipment, like all of our machines, our big CNC fabric cutter is made in California, but like most of our sewing machines are Japan. Like there isn't an industrial U.S. sewing machine company in existence. They don't exist. And so, that's something that even, I guess somebody who's trying to be as diehard U.S. made as I can, there's some things I just can't.
Right.
I can't because it just doesn't exist. But, we're really trying to find ways to be efficient with the equipment that we have, and that's where what's cool about U.S. manufacturing is it forces us to be creative in the actual manufacturing process. Where most of Asia, they can get by with just throwing bodies at it, and they don't worry about making the process that efficient or the design that design for manufacturing. They don't really think about it because it doesn't really matter. Where for us, like we'll design a product and then we start tweaking that product based on, okay, well, if we change these angles like this and change the order of operations, well, we can put it on one of our CNC stitching machines and we can get all these steps knocked out, and and then quality goes way up, speed goes way up, labor rates go down. Like you can do some really neat features on items that normally wouldn't be done because you know what, we're looking at it in a different light.
What's amazed me in so many ways too is how your business is spread via word of mouth, because you know you were, I don't want to say like the only game in town because that makes it sound like you had an advantage, but you were the game in town is the better way to put it. Like I've watched it. I've watched the arc. You were doing it and you were doing it right, almost right out of the chute. Right. Which says a lot about your process and the processes you put in place. Because what do they say? It's people, process, and product. And you had the right product and you had the right process dialed in. I'm sure the people thing didn't flesh itself out for a while.
Right.
But you had 2 out of 3, and that's this key.
Well, and yeah, we approached it in a way, again, kind of looking at all 3, and we're still doing that now, you know, with our new products and with our new people that we bring on. You know, from day one, it's always like, you know, we're trying to build, you know, the best quality items that we can. And, you know, in the end, when we get done with it and it looks like garbage, like we cut off whatever hardware we can, we toss in the garbage and we
start again.
And it's education. I college tuition. I consider all those, you know, tuition costs. And, you know, because it's what our customers, I guess it's what I would expect from a company. And so, you know, I kind of try to do the same as far as if our customers are on that other side, what do they want? What's the right thing to do? And, you know, that's why my managers, you know, when they come up to me and say, hey, you know, we have this situation, what do we do? And it's like, I usually ask them, what's the right thing to do? And, you know, I haven't been proven wrong yet. They make the right decision, because like when you just frame it in that mindset.
Isn't that something that it's so crazy that it's lost?
Yeah.
Like, what's the right thing?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, and now they're getting it and they got it, and it's good. It's fun to watch, like kind of that, I don't know, philosophy. I think
it's hard to get U.S. fabric businesses, soft goods businesses in the place that you're in, mainly because you have to find the right people that understand it's a mission. Right. And understand that it's a goal, and understand where you're trying to go and where you're trying to skate to and what you're trying to do. And that's something you have to, and I know you do this, you have to break bread with your people. You have to spend a lot of time. There's a lot of late nights. It's like almost like who's going to leave first type of thing.
Yeah.
Especially early on, you know, when you're at 3, 4, 5 employees. And what people don't realize is when you're trying to build something that's all your own, and that's you from the ground up, you have to be prepared to be putting 10, 12, 15-hour days in to make that happen. And I highly doubt, knowing you the way I know you, those days are still happening now. I mean, you're trying to live a life too with the kids and everything, but like you're still putting in that time.
Right. And it doesn't really stop. Like even if I leave the shop, like I'm constantly getting messages, you know, and I try to interact with everybody who does, you know, and that gets to be a bit overwhelming.
It's a bitch.
It's hard, and there's so many different platforms too. Sometimes I wish Wolf from The Office existed, where like everything just all funneled into one channel. But you know what, we get through it. And you know, and I think we took a different path than a lot of U.S. soft good companies do, as far as like manufacturing it ourselves. You know, I think that most companies out there outsource it either to another U.S. manufacturing company, which we manufacture some stuff for other people as well, but or they look at importing it from somewhere else. And like there's pros and cons to both methods as far as, you know, the business side goes. Like I view, though, if you're outsourcing, like you just basically beat all those problems with capital. And you know, when we started this, we just started it in the spare bedroom with a little
sweat
bit
equity,
and we just grew it from there. So like, you know, we didn't have the, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to sit there and send out to some outsourcing company to do that first run and take that kind of gamble with, you know, finding a place to sell it.
The critical juncture comes in like year 2 through 4. Like that's like kind of the critical time where you have to hire the right person initially and bring in the right people, because that's when it's at its scariest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and you have to have the right process in place. And when you have it dialed in, that's the fear that you have to overcome, not to get all Tony Blauer. Hi, Tony.
Right.
But I mean, that's the fear mechanism that kicks in. Like, oh my God, I'm writing this check to an employee now, or I'm responsible for another employee or a soul, and they're dependent on me.
Yep. For sure.
So yeah, years 2 through 4 become that critical mass, because it's one thing when it's a side hustle. If it falls through, I got Ruger, or if it falls through, I got this. But you're at that critical mass in years 2 through 4 of like, I got to make the right fucking decisions, or
right.
Yeah.
Well, and the hard part and it still is a thing too, but when you're like 3 and 4 employees, like, labor is the most expensive thing, and when it's 3 or 4, one bad person is such a huge percentage of your workforce that like you can't
afford it.
You can't afford it. Like
that's why you got to hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah. So that's been a growing experience for us too, is just trying to find good people, and how to keep the good people that we have and grow them, and try to make them be part of the culture.
Yeah, that's a hard thing, and everybody approaches it differently.
Yeah.
But I think nurturing and understanding their goals becomes really important. Like, I can't tell you the amount of companies I sit with now that like I'm like, have you ever sat with your employees and asked them, hey, what's your goal here? What are you trying to do?
Yep.
Maybe you just love this job. Maybe you hate it. But there's not enough of that anymore.
Right. Well, and I think sometimes when it gets so big, that gets difficult. But yeah, it takes a lot of listening. Like a lot of times, if you just listen, you can hear what is actually happening, and if you're a good person, you'll try to make action on it and try to make it better. Because in the end, the honey or vinegar.
Do you think that's what's lost in the defense business, is listening to the customer?
Oh, for sure. Well, I think, I don't know if it's lost, but I think it's a huge benefit for the ones who do.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So it's something that, when we come up with a new product, we really try to get with the people who are in the know, or who are, aware, and try to make sure that, they, give their thoughts and try to actually, act on it. 'Cause it's a big part that I think it's huge.
Because when you start running a company and you get to that larger scale level, you have to have those people on the ground. Like when it starts out, you think, I'm going to shoot forever. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to always be in the field, right? But you're not in the field as much. And that's what I think of, especially during COVID and everything else that's gone on the last 2 or 3 years around the defense industry, is one of the things that I feel like at the NRA level or at the NSSF level has been lost, is like that inability to just listen to what the people want.
Right.
And it can be something as simple as like, no, we don't want another free hat and free pouch giveaway. Like, we want information,
Right.
And we're in an industry, I say it all the time, of the most alpha people, but like the biggest pussies in leadership. It's amazing to me.
Yeah. That's definitely an interesting way to look at it. And I would agree that like,
it's hard to find leadership. Like nobody wants to step up and say, hey, here's what's going on. Like, you get like a press release out of Wayne, that's like as good as you get. Like there's no one stepping up and making any large scale statements, know? And that's what always is so interesting to me about the defense industry, is nobody wants to step up and say, hey guys, listen, this is what's going on.
Right.
Like you go to the pages and it's just like fluff product pieces like, hey, we're making money. Fuck it. We'll bury our head in the sand. Well,
but what's hard too, and I'll say, I'm part of the problem too. Is that like I get so wrapped up in what I'm doing that sometimes I don't see what's happening all around me. Like, we get so buried in my small world. I get so buried in my small world that sometimes like the world's burning around me and I don't even notice it.
But I can almost accept it a little bit from a small business owner. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're just trying to keep your people working. You're trying to move forward.
Yeah.
We just got lucky in this business during COVID that it was blowing up, and it was huge. We weren't losing employees. We were adding employees.
Right.
And the thing that discourages me is you just expected so much more from the leadership level of the industry across the board. And I've said it 100 times. I just wish, for all of our sakes, we had some guidance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something that those big organizations are missing out on, is,
people want to be led.
Yeah, yeah, and we need it. I think we need to be led.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's a funny business, and you don't have to walk around SHOT Show or NRA Show or any of these shows to figure that out. It's a funny business, and there's a lot of different walks of life in it, and in many ways we've seen it. It's the evolution of the machine shop. It's the evolution of these like engineers that started these little companies, and we were talking about this offline. And it's almost like they've grown to a fever pitch where they've become these multi-million-dollar brands. And in many ways, a lot of it's due to panic selling and to those type of methods. But is that the method that's going to take us to even the next level? I think it's the method that makes us lose ultimately if we don't reel it in.
Well, and if you don't, I think the first couple of years of the Trump administration, the Trump slump, there was a lot of companies that went out of business because they were so used to just panic buying through, the Obama administration that once that panic subsided, they didn't know how to handle, those years, and and it crushed a lot of companies. And I think right now it's kind of that same. I mean, it's panic buying, and it's nice for a bit. It's revenue wise, like it's good, but
is it real?
It's not real, and honestly, it's not for me. It's not that much fun. Like I want someone to buy it because they want it. And because like they're informed, like I want an informed buyer. I want an informed customer who's like, yeah, this is what I want because it does this, this, and this. And I'll sell to a guy who's panicked as well. But like, it's but I don't want a guy like, oh my gosh, just give me whatever you have, and I don't even think about it.
It's funny you say it like that. Like I'll sell to a guy, because I've said this question even to Ryan McMillan, the former SEAL I've had on. I've said this before. It's an industry that obsesses over being tip of the spear. Like we're selling to SEALs. And it's like, bro, like you want to sell to everybody ultimately, right? But you want your 1,000 screaming fans. You want your informed 1,000 screaming fans. But I almost want to reach across the table and slap companies that say that. Like, what are you talking about? Like they're like, yeah, bro, we sell to snipers.
Right.
I'm like, do you know how many snipers, and I use fucking huge air quotes around that word, there are out there? Like, do you know what you're talking about?
Yeah.
You sound stupid. Yeah. Like, that means you're trying to sell to 5 people.
Right. Well, but there's a lot of self-proclaimed snipers, too, who, that's a whole different,
so
crew.
That's a whole Facebook group. Yeah. That's a whole different thing.
And, but it's, it's kind of a weird time that we're in right now. And, I mean, I'm
very intrigued by the upcoming NRA show and even potentially SHOT Show on the horizon, because I've said this before, and you're an interesting guy to talk to about this. We're always affected by the theater we're in at these shows. And this is going to be really interesting with PPE, with the rush, how people, approach the show culture and how people approach even marketing, right? Is very interesting to watch. Some companies are like, we don't need marketing. Like, fire the whole team because you don't need it, right?
Right.
But when you come out of this, if you don't have a team that's running right now and running hard in the paint, you're in trouble. Now, your product a little bit different because it's a word of mouth, but as you've grown, it's kind of like, how do we get this stuff out there? Now, you mentioned like the back end of social media.
Yeah.
I've been a huge proponent of this, and I've said this to companies. Well, the back end of social media is customer service. Hire a customer service person. Yep. And they're like, what? Like, that's like mind-blowing. Like, mind blown. I'm like, that's all customer service.
Right. But, I mean, I will say, too, like, in the end, I would want to see like no customer service because I don't have, like, I'm able on the front end as far as the sale, like I have a clear enough website and description process where like they don't need to ask questions because like I have it that well laid out, which I don't. But that's the ultimate goal, the big picture.
Right.
I would love to have it. So like it's so clear that nobody needs to ask any questions. And in the end, on the back side of it, there's no problems with any of the orders. So I don't.
That's a perfect world.
That's a perfect world. We're not, and no one will get there. But like, that's how I would love to. That's the goal. Knowing that I'll never get there.
Yeah, it's that is the dream, right?
Yeah.
To be running like that and have a smooth enough process. And the ones that do take the approach like you of like the lifetime warranty, the hands-on, that ultimately makes it a lot easier. It's a big undertaking to take on because you have to service the need, right? And you're gonna have people that like me that fuck up their orders or do the wrong things. You have to be ready and prepared to deal with that.
Yeah.
But companies are very, especially in soft goods, they're very timid to go into that type of space.
Anything that we spend on like customer service stuff, I just view it as marketing dollars. That guy who ends up
me,
you or the guy who sits there, his dog chews apart his stuff, and he's like, "Hey, can you fix this?" And it's like, that's so gone. we're just going to remake it and, send it to you. Like, he then becomes like that 1,000
screaming fans.
1,000 screaming fans. And like, and then, whenever he's looking for the next thing, he's not going to bother looking elsewhere because he's like, oh yeah, I know they take care of me.
And you got to give it back. Like, we did a super chat. We had a super chat the other day. We're always doing super chat, but I give the money back. Like, anyone who chats into this live now, I'm more than willing to kick the money back to you to give stuff away. I mean, that's how it works, and that's the best way to do it. And to you have to pay it forward in some way, and you have to believe that the wheel will spin round. That's the way I always look at it. In the soft goods market, I want to ask you this: what is it? Hunting? Is it bow hunting? What specific genre did you find was the most underserviced?
So for us, step one was suppressor covers, just because it was a small niche. But then, we really focused a lot on competitive long range shooting, and it was mainly because it was a hobby. It was kind of the niche that I really started focusing efforts into. There's some other great competitors of ours out there that make good gear, but like, we do it a little bit different. We look at things in a different way, and obviously I would say my ideas better, but you know what? It's not that their ideas are bad, and it's my preference. So yeah, we do a lot with competitive long range shooting. We're starting to work more into the hunting world, just because, again, there's some things out there that when I look at it, it's like, I could do that better. And so, and I don't want to, since I have a sewing machine with the boatloads of fabric and the skills and the tools, it's like, well, I'm not going to go buy that. I'm going to go make it for myself. And then after I make it, it's like, that's kind of cool. I'm going to start offering it to other people. And that's how usually most of our products get made is it's something like, I can do something, I can accomplish this same goal as far as what other products do, but I can do it my own way. I can, alter it so it's fits my style better. And then, we go ahead and run with it.
What do you feel the U.S. market does better than overseas?
Oh, so definitely focusing on those niches, and then just the quality as far as like
stitching and
the materials. I can pick something up and instantly, just from the feel of the material, be like, this is China material.
This is shit. Yeah,
it's got that ugly, gross backing on it that after a couple of years starts cracking and peeling, and it's just, like that's so the materials and just the quality of the work itself, and then honestly in the designs themselves, usually, they're more efficient. Like, you look at a typical Asian bag, and there's straps and pockets and pouches everywhere that, like, you look at it and it's like, why would you ever want a strap right here? Like, but because it's so cheap to put a strap on there, we'll put a strap there. And it's like, for us, it's like, every little piece, adds to that cost. And so we're trying to, not necessarily from a cost standpoint, but like efficiency wise, like, I just want to be efficient, and which also leads then for like, especially on the hunting side, when you start finding those efficiencies in the design, it also usually leads to efficiencies with weight, which is huge for hunting, and and all these kinds of stuff. So like, we can get lighter, more, we can use some cooler materials, we can use, designs that I guess, usually fit those niches better.
Yeah. I'm always curious what we do exponentially better here, but I do think the secret's in the design recipe.
Yeah.
Really, because you're firsthand, using it and you understand it. But it's amazing how dependent we are at the same time on something made overseas that's not produced here in the United States. It's a little crazy to me, but I get it. To everybody listening, listen. It's very hard. You don't understand. The soft goods market is almost impossible to. You can't have everything in your house be made in the USA. It's very hard to do. In fact, if there's a YouTube or something out there that's like, hey, this is 100% all made, I'd be curious to watch it.
Right.
Because that is so hard to do, and it's a shame.
Right.
It really is. During COVID, especially even now, watching like the ammo debacle, which we've talked about a lot, right? and I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole with it, but you had people saying, "Oh, it's primers. We can't get them from overseas. It's this, it's that." And then you had Collion Noir do that stupid thing where he's like, "It's hunters." Oh, I didn't realize it was hunters. You're in the field. Does that stuff infuriate you, or like when you see that, are you like, "What the fuck?" Like it's not.
So I mean, my thing. Basis for all beliefs with that kind of stuff is the free market will dictate, what happens, and it's easy for me to sit there and say, oh, it's all the hoarders, and you guys got to stop buying stuff, but at the same time, like if I went down to the local store and they had 5,000 rounds of 9mm sitting on the shelf for normal prices, I don't need 5,000 rounds, but I'm going to buy them because I can't find them, and so like I'm kind of part of the problem too, I guess, so it's easy to sit there and say everyone else needs to stop panic buying, even though I know if it came out, like I would panic buy it too. And I'd rather, it sucks that we have such extreme prices right now, but I'd rather have extreme prices and be able to at least have the option to buy it if I really need it. And, and you should have been prepared. You should have had a stockpile that you kind of thought out beforehand. But I'd rather have it high prices than none available. Right.
It's a crazy time for that. And I don't think you're wrong in what you're saying. You're 100% right. Most people will just see it, and if it's normal prices. The problem is I think the situation ran away from the ammo companies a little bit.
For sure.
And I think they have to reel it in now. But when people say, like, casting the blame on one group,
no,
I don't think is 100% fucking accurate either.
No. Well, and I think too, we had a whole boatload of first-time gun buyers get into the world, because
and not supplying them with ammo is a fucking problem.
Well, or I think just we had the COVID panic, then we had the unrest panic, and so like there's a bunch of people who are buying guns for the first time, and they need their little supply of ammo too. So I mean, I think it's a bunch of that stuff that's kind of all compounding, and you can't blame it on any one person. And like I said, it's easy to blame everybody else and not look inward on yourself too.
Now, how do you see us coming out of this show-wise? Do you think NRA will go right back to not skipping a beat? Do you see things staying slow on the ground level? Because this industry's done a terrible job of going into streaming and other areas and other genres. How do you see it playing out?
So, well, and this is something that I've had a couple conversations about, especially like, so NRA is a little bit different because it's, you're mixing in with customers, but still, both NRA and SHOT Show, I think there's always been this feeling of obligation from companies like, oh, I have to do it. I have to do it. And, and when you look at like the model of it, it's kind of old school, like, oh, we're not gonna release anything.
Oh, it's archaic. It's dust.
Yeah. And now with technology and social media, like a company can release a product any time of the year, and with the right marketing plan, can get it out to way more people than if they waited till SHOT Show and try to build hype around it. So like, but I feel like there's always been this obligation, and for a company who went going every year to SHOT Show, and then all of a sudden, if they made their own decision, say, you know what, we don't think the ROI is there for these shows anymore, we're going to pull out. That the rumor mill would start turning away and be like, oh, company XYZ, they're not going to SHOT Show. They must be almost out of business.
In trouble.
Right. They're going down. And then like, you can't have that. And so I'm wondering if this kind of gives that pass. Like we had the 1 year with no SHOT Show. Companies are going to maybe realize like, hey, I don't have to do this. And, and other people, and I think the consumer will not be quick to say, we've already forgotten who was at SHOT Show 2 years ago, or, a year and a half ago now, NRA, whenever it was, so I think that fear of being looked at as like a company who's struggling, that's why they're not going, I think isn't there. So I think there might be some companies who are going to say, you know what, the ROI isn't there. I mean, it's expensive as all get out to.
But what you get out of it, it's too expensive.
Yes, for sure, and that's it's way too expensive, and I think if those companies took, and this is we've kind of made the decision, instead of going huge at these shows, we'll take that money that we would spend there, and put it into other marketing efforts that will yield way more.
Well, it's because the model they use, Dustin, is a carnival model.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sell this section and we're going to make money as an entity, right? So they even came out and said as much. They're like, it's basically a donation, right? We want your money, donate. And when you get into that spiral,
Right.
it's a very poor marketing plan. It really is what it is. It's a very poor structure. And if you don't pivot and get into something that's going to offer a greater reward, that's why things like John Lovell's doing at Warrior Poet Network, things like those guys are doing, which go check out the Warrior Poet Network if you haven't. You know, that's something like the maybe not the NSSF, because Tom Itzig kind of did a course correction on me. He's like, do you really want the NSSF marketing? But I think the NRA was onto something with NRA TV when they had that incarnation, but they just didn't own the rights to it. If they had, you know, got into streaming, got into paywalls, got into those other avenues, you can make it more of an event. Now, you don't, those platforms, they're not big enough platforms is what it comes down to.
Well, and for me, like, I find, like, so I think there's definitely huge value in face-to-face networking. Like,
sure.
And I don't see technology, you know, replacing that. But I don't know how the shows, as far as providing value to the vendors, like, honestly, for me as a company, like, I get more value for my dollars by me just walking around, talking with people, face-to-face meeting,
100%,
and not having a booth, because, you know, by the time you actually have a decent booth, have enough staff out there to actually staff it, pay for their, you know, travel, meals, hotel, like, it's stupid money. And I mean, it's to sit there and it's 1 week and it's done, you know, where, like, if you do some of this digital stuff, it lives on way longer than the 1 week.
That's why I was laughing when somebody sent me I'm not going to say who, somebody sent me the rates for, like, Recoil TV. I'm like, are you guys high? I'm like, dude, you can buy an ad on YouTube and get way more. Like, are you on drugs?
Yeah, but see, the hard part, at least for what I experienced, YouTube, Facebook, all them, like, they really limit what we can advertise with, because
sure,
they don't like us.
You got to work around. But that's why I feel in media, one of the big failures we're making as an industry is we're failing to entertain the people first. We're failing to draw the people in first, because this is an industry, as you know, that's always been motivated, but you got to talk about the bag, but you got to talk about this.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's not entertaining. Yes, you have to do the quintessential review pieces and stuff like that, but that's not going to be the hook. That's not what's going to draw people in. Unfortunately for our business, one of the limitations you're alluding to is we can't go out there and, you know, do a shooting exposition to display that and advertise that, because that doesn't resonate well with those platforms. But there are workarounds. There are ways of working around it. And that's why I think whether it's podcasting or different types of tabletop type format, open discussions, forums, open up a lot of doors. And what's frustrating to me is I look at these entities like, say for example, the NSSF and SHOT Show. One of the things that's always blown my mind is it's essentially a trade show. That's what it's supposed to be. But have you ever gone upstairs for one trade show session? And you know as well as I do, in any other industry, you're going there for the learning.
Right. Well, and that's, I mean, so I go to sewing conventions that, you know, like,
totally different.
I'll go there and, like, they have clinics that I actually, like,
want to sit in,
and I listen and I learn. And they have a whole vendor area, and I peruse and go do that stuff. But it's a mix where, SHOT Show is.
And that's why I say, like, you know, they need to put time, effort, and energy into building that up, and you have to have.
But what is that though? Like, is it like a shooting class? 'Cause,
no,
like, that's not possible.
No. So I think one of the things that would draw business owners in is if there were seminars like put on by, maybe you had roundtables with like Tom Taylor and a couple other guys, you know, sessions that you could sit in that were actually worthwhile. Maybe it was a media clinic with actually viable media people that have opened and done new things. Like, for example, the last SHOT Show, they did one that was like a Facebook like how to advertise. You can't advertise on Facebook. And not only that, you're jumping the gun. You're putting the cart before the horse. You're putting the balls before the shaft. You're not understanding that you have to first teach people new media concepts, and who out there is using a new concept that you can actually get behind, that you can actually advertise, that's repeatable. It's easy to get in a room and say, hey, what you need is a hunting video, or what you need is a mag dump in the desert. But if you're not teaching the concepts.
Right. I don't know, but like our industry is like I think the number of orders that are processed via fax machine still to this day in the firearms industry is significantly higher than any other industry. I think there's still a lot of old school.
Oh yeah, and listen,
so
no, you're not wrong.
So
but
I don't know if we're ready for it. I don't know.
I think you can go, but the point is, I'll say you can go one of two ways with the show culture in our business. One way is just open SHOT Show up. Stop saying that you need to be in the like sell the tickets. Just sell the fucking tickets at the door. Let people go in and prepay for them, because essentially that's what goes on now, right? So just sell the tickets, because then you get maybe a blow up in foot traffic, right? Which is good too, which is always good. But this whole mask of like, it's industry only,
right?
Yeah, it's horseshit. We all know it is,
right?
So I think you get past that, okay? And then this is like going the other way. This is the non-educational way and not making it a trade show.
Right.
Open it up and allow people to sell at it too.
Yeah, but then what's the difference between that and NRA?
Nothing. But those are the only two that are going to survive. It's about survival now.
Right.
So if we're adhering to the rules of survival, Darwinism kicks in at some point.
Right.
So, I think if you just open up those floodgates and you start to do the math in your head, just like you're doing now, like, okay, if I fly in with, or I pallet out, 10 grand worth of the goods that I can move. Yep. Okay. That pays for the rooms. Right. Now I'm just in it for tickets and food. But the problem is the return at SHOT Show, like, and maybe if I read a $20,000 ticket while I'm there, sale ticket, you could start to do the math in your head. Like, okay, it's not a total loss.
Right. And I think that's hard with it. SHOT Show is because you can't sell there. It's hard to actually, even after the fact, try to calculate your ROI. I mean, sure, the big guys, they take orders there, and so like you can do that, but I don't know. I
just think if you're gonna go hard in the paint one way,
yeah,
you'll come out. You'll be able to come out of it. Like the NSSF will be able to come out of it. Like, okay, let's go. Let's just do this. Let's just like if we're charging, but to say we can stay on the same path we're on,
right? And
booths are going to go up X every year, and this is going to go up. It's not going to work.
Well, and so for us, SHOT Show 20. When was the last time we had it? 2020. Right?
No, we had it. What, 2019?
No, we had it 2020 because that was when COVID was first rumbling. So we had a small booth upstairs in that. What is the pop-up previews?
Yeah,
pop-up preview. And then, and then COVID hit, but then they were still saying that they were going to have SHOT Show, and they were trying to get us to sign up for a new booth, and they wanted us, the only spot that they were giving us an option was in Caesar's Palace, because they were expanding out to Caesar's Palace, and I'm like, and that's where we sat down and did the ROI calculation on it, and it was like, for how much we're going to spend to be in the back corner of Caesar's Palace, like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So we made the decision that just we weren't going to, and we figured that was a good time because once, we didn't want to get in that cycle of, oh, you've done SHOT Show before, you better keep doing it every year, or else,
Yeah.
You
get in that tornado.
Exactly.
Of like, we got to do it.
You're right.
Save face.
And when you talk to most people who are in the industry, like, SHOT Show is the week they love to hate. Like, they're like, oh God. When the guys who have to work booths all week long.
The networking's great.
Right. But like, and
I would like to see them jazz up the upstairs stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them open up the ticket floodgates. I'd like to see more private events upstairs, like stuff that draws people in. I think obviously the NSSF could benefit from some young blood approach to doing it. Get some people in that kind of understand. But if you continue on that model that you're on now, I think you're going to have a hard time finding a lot of people, especially post-COVID, that are going to be like, oh, yeah, spending $25,000 makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Oh,
and that was, so when we were looking at it, 25 grand was like shoestring budget.
Yeah.
Like you can't do much with 25 grand at SHOT Show.
And unless, like, to me, those shows got to be break even, because why would you do that when you can go and do, Great American Outdoor Show or NRA? Like, I think NRA does a good job with the show. I don't critique their show a lot.
Right.
I don't like how much it travels is the best way for me to put it. I think they could settle in on 4 or 5 destinations, but that's hard. Yeah, I get it. Because some venues I just can't stand, but that's a selfish.
Yeah. Well, but on the same side, I do like that because it is traveling. Like, there's a lot of people who can't fly into these events or, choose not to fly into these events. So it at least helps spread out, the locations. But I feel like there are some locations that are, not ideal. And I don't think that,
the juice is worth the squeeze.
Right. And I think there's some areas that are left out as well.
Yeah.
But what's hard with our industry too is like,
so many logistics
and we can't have the types of events that we want to have can't happen in a lot of major metropolitan areas. Like Vegas works out pretty well, like with range day, because you can get out to, you go a little ways out of town and it's nothing. But like any of the other, Orlando that they've talked about, like where do you have range day near Orlando? I mean, there are some places, but not to the same level.
You'd have to do it in like Okeechobee or something.
Sure, and so there are some places, but it's not nearly as ideal as Vegas.
What about the theory of doing smaller type things?
I mean,
smaller scale, not as big.
But who wants to go there? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't have all the. I mean, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think that there is something to be said about smaller micro events.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's something worth looking at, like almost like, we're going to get 20, 30 companies together. We're going to do something that's more focused to squeeze more out of it.
Right.
I think companies would be very responsive to that. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to jumpstart things. It's trying times. I mean, on a global level, the gun industry, obviously, in the firearms business is going through a rapid change. Obviously, millions of new gun owners. Mm-hmm. It's wild. Does it blow your mind, all these people coming in to the industry, and do you think they'll stay?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy when you look at some of the numbers as far as first time gun buyers. And I don't know. I think right now ammo shortage might kind of limit, or it might start weeding some of those people out.
And that's a shame.
It is. I think as long as as an industry we can find ways to nurture their experience and try to get more experiences, I think people like it. Like it's a fun hobby. It's a fun pastime. It's a great skill. It's there's so many different benefits to it that like if we do a little bit of work as an industry, we could do some cool stuff and keep them involved and keep them going.
My fear with the ammo squeeze is it doesn't help the wheel spin round. The instructors can't instruct. You know what I mean? It really affects the ecosystem of this business.
For us, we do a lot of competitive long range gear. There's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of people who are like, I'm taking this year off because I can't get the ammo, or and for me, even myself, I have, this is the first year I've ever had to do it where I set out what matches I'm going to and have like estimated round counts at each one. And like I allotted my ammo that I have, because I know like
to limp through the season.
Right. And, and I've got an okay supply of it, but like it's not, that thought has never crossed my mind any other year other than this one is like, I better track how much ammo. I could go down, count how much ammo I got right now. All right, so I know I can do these matches. Where before it's just like, all right, yeah, I want to do this match, and not even worry about it.
Do you think we're doomed as an industry?
No. I mean, I think it's going to change.
I think we're doomed. Maybe not in our lifetime, but I think we're doomed.
Like, what do you think? Is it the politics that's going to get it, or because I think like it's going to keep squeezing there?
Well, I've said it on here, and I'll say it again to you. I'm curious your thoughts, but I think we spend way too much time focusing on the gun, and we spend way too much time driving that home. Like I've watched videos of so-called gun industry pundits out there that talk, and they don't add up to amount of dog shit to me. Because they don't come from the industry. They're not born out of the industry. They're created entities. And I'm not going to get into the names. People know what I think of certain people that go on Fox News and certain genres. The problem is they're very quick to be combative. They're very quick to be... to be, it doesn't stand for assault rifle, it stands for Armalite rifle, and the left is going to win because we're trying to beat them at their own game.
Magazine versus clip, suppressor versus silencer. In the end, none of it really matters. Like,
nobody cares,
right?
Ultimately, like, to get like, like when Charlie posts a video of him correcting, you lost that person,
right?
You didn't win that person over,
right? You
lost that person, and to me, the problem you run into when you engage in that type of debate with someone, you're going to ultimately lose that person from winning them over to the genre, which is failure one. Failure two is you didn't do anything. Nobody's leaving that interaction and saying, oh, I'm an idiot because I called it an assault rifle. That's a media nomenclature that they've come up with, they've branded, and the left is really good at that. And when they take an inch, they take a mile.
Right.
And we take inches because we are so dated in our approach and in how our thing. It took this industry till this long for even me to create a platform like this.
Right.
Like before me, how many people were fusing different genres and bringing them together that all faced a common I can't think of anyone.
I can't think of anyone.
I'm not the smartest guy in the room. How did I think about it?
Because you actually did it. Like that, like in the end, it comes down to the people who actually do stuff. Like ideas are one thing, executing on the ideas is like where the
because we're not good at uniting the clans, and you know as well. And I know that's a bad term, but like uniting the different genres,
right?
And as well as I do, there's an undercurrent in the defense industry of like, well, he's not a SEAL.
Right.
He's not a this.
Right.
And that's a bad thing.
Right. And I think we do need to do a better job of, and it's kind of a double-edged sword as far as like, you don't want to introduce a new person to this with in your face, full auto black rifle stuff. Like it, and some people like it, but like you have to weigh out like, what is it about that person that is, can you at least get their toe wet and have a good experience? And then so you can start, building from that. And yeah, if it's just all gotcha moments or, yelling and screaming, well, no, why waste your time? You're not there. You're only pushing them away. And that's the complete opposite, and if it is a matter of, let's talk about, I don't know, like some of the shooting, like biathlon, sure. Like it's maybe if that's the avenue to start getting more people into shooting, like, yeah, it's kind of lame as far as like, it's not the cool, semi-auto, running doing mag dumps. But you know what? If that's what it takes to get someone exposed to it and say, all right, well, let's see what's next after this. Because I feel like it's a journey. Like, we all kind of, at least for me, I started as a little kid, shooting my BB gun, trying to be like my dad, going out hunting, and then from there, it just kind of morphed to where it's at now. But if I'd have had a bad experience, and I had a good experience when I was a kid, so it at least got me started down the path. But if you start out with a bad experience, you're going to quit there.
And that's a lot of what I see. It's that failure to educate first in terms of, easing people into it.
Yeah.
Hey, how about this, right? How about the comeback to a lot of I guess you'd say, people that are negative on it.
Right.
Hey, have you ever tried it?
Right.
No, I don't want to, well, if you've never tried it, how do you know you hate it?
Right. Yep. And that scares a lot of people away. And, and kind of like within, you find like there's a kind of a sub group within our industry that like, and I'm all about like, let's be prepared medically, but like, they feel like step one, you need to teach people how to put on chest seals, tourniquets, pack wounds. And like, that's, you need to learn how to do that first. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of people when you start talking about like the medical stuff, like as far as when it, if you're trying to introduce them to the shooting sports, they're like, heck with this. And
that's where the secularness of it starts to rear its ugly head.
Right.
It starts to become very secular. Like the hunters have their own world.
Yeah.
The self-defense guys have their own world. The long-range shooters have their own world. And I've just always felt like if we boil it all down and start to ask the simple questions, hey, do you like the sport of shooting? And what I've always felt is it's a contextual argument more than it is anything, right? So we went all in as an industry into Instagram and
Right.
into photo-based advertising.
Right.
We're going to run an ad. We're going to speak. We speak so much to the same 8 people over
Right.
and over and over again. And we're constantly like reverting back to what got us here in the first place, but no one is expanding it. And I sat back and I said, these are all great people. I love meeting these people. I didn't have to drive up to your shop and see you. I chose to. Hey, let me go check out what he's doing up there. This looks fucking cool. And you form these great relationships like you're talking about, but no one is putting a micro. We see the same 4 people on Fox News that we see on everything else, that we see everywhere else, and they're the same people. And it's like they're trying to sell a book, they're trying to sell a mug, and they're trying to sell a sweatshirt. And I'm like, if people just took 5 minutes to just hear someone's story, hey, I got into it because someone kicked my door open and tried to attack me. And this is why I believe in defending myself. And I wouldn't be here today if this didn't happen. Right. Those are the stories that resonate. Those are the stories that hit home. And I don't think this industry does enough of that. We revert back to the cheesy 511 ad, you know, that's like someone you can't relate to doing something you've never done. Right. That makes no sense. Right. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on, but it's, you know, the old posters. But I think that there's so much more to this. Like, you know, I think even like with this show, with the folks I've had on, with the people that have come through that door, that are willing to sit down right where you are and have a conversation, I'm like, this is a great industry.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, you know, there are definitely people that I interact with now and then that do not have anywhere, they have the exact opposite views of firearms with me, and I try to approach it in a way that, you know, you just let's sit down and have a conversation. And in the end, you know, no matter what you say, you're probably not going to change my mind on I'm pretty rock solid in my views, but I know once you start yelling, like, it's over for me. Like, I'm done. And so same thing goes, you know, as I'm talking to them, it's like, I know if it starts getting heated, you know, it's over. So like, let's just talk about it and understand why we have differences in thoughts, and talk about, you know, how we got there, and you know, how we can move forward where, you know, really in the end, I just want to be alone. Like, just, and I would like to, you know, have you come along this journey with me as well. But like, if you don't want to, that's fine, but just leave me alone then. And
there are people that when you have the debate, to me, it starts with the simplest question. You know, have you ever tried the sport of shooting?
Right.
Have you ever gone out to a range? Would you like to go?
Right.
Would you like to go try it one day on a Sunday with me? Would you like to go shoot some skeet and trap? Or, you know, just start real simple with people. Yeah. You know, think about the first time you started. Think about, you know, and maybe it's just as simple as saying like, hey, if you'd like to come, I'd love to take you.
Right. Yeah. And so,
I mean, I know, listen, to everybody listening, every business owner can't do that, right? Like that's not real life. Like you can't do that. But I think that somehow got lost in the argument.
For sure. And I think, yeah, you know, as gun owners, you know, we need to be doing that more and trying to include more people, because that's the only way.
Because it's a barrier of entry, right?
Right. For sure.
And the barrier of entry to anything, like if I said to you, have you ever done yoga?
Right.
You're going to be like, oh, fuck that. I'm not doing yoga. You know what I mean?
I've tried it.
You know, it's yeah. So, you know, but you have to, if you haven't tried it, the first thing is you have to say, well, no.
Right.
And that's one of the barriers that I think is worth overcoming, you know? And I feel like somewhere in all this chaos that's gone on in this country, what's been lost is just having the simple conversation. Hey, do you want to be more capable of protecting yourself?
Right. Exactly.
You could say no.
Right.
But if you do and you'd like to, I'd love to help you. Would you like to sign up for a jiu-jitsu class? Would you like to go to the range one day and practice shooting? Would you like to understand how this works?
Right.
Because the amount of people, to me, Dustin, that have gone to California, for example, for the first time to purchase a firearm, they were blown away at how ridiculous the process was. Those stories, and I feel like whether you're the NSSF or NRA, like, publish those stories. Put those out there.
Yeah.
Let people consume how difficult it is.
Right.
They're like, really? I have to wait this many days? I have to do, like, what?
Right.
How did this happen?
Yeah. No, and
but we attack the argument, to me, from all the wrong angles.
Yep. And yeah, in the end, if we don't try to include new people, we are doomed. But I have hope that that's not the path.
Well, we all do.
Right.
I think ultimately we all do. And the reason, I say we're doomed is if we continue down the path of trying to fight the arguments one at a time, they'll pick us off. It's simple. Yep. It's simple math at that point.
Right. Well, and it needs to be a philosophical debate. Like you said, do you want to have more tools to protect yourself? Tools both physically and mentally, and
because just pounding the table and yelling it's the Second Amendment is not going to work.
I want it to be that simple.
We all do,
but it's not.
It's not, because if you approach it that way, you'll lose every time.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean.
So to all the threepers out there, no, that's not the angle.
But you're not gonna win people's minds over. And in the end, it shouldn't matter that the way how the Second Amendment's written, opinions shouldn't matter. Like for me at least, it's black and white. But like, if we're really looking at this as a long game, like, we've got to win people over, just not legally, but just as far as like mentally.
100%. I agree. Listen, how long have we been going? What are we at for time?
I don't know. I can talk forever, man.
I know. I feel like we've been going forever. Are we at let me see. We're at
an hour.
Oh yeah, we're already at an hour. I want to ask you this because I'd be remiss if I didn't get to it. You're going through this journey and you're moving now.
Yeah.
Changing business. A lot of people are on the move. We've already seen that there's some redistricting going on. There's a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Do you feel this is one of the greatest exoduses in our lifetime of states and people shifting around? It's kind of wild and wacky, right?
Yeah, it's wild to see what's going on. I'm kind of doing a little bit of the reverse as far as, you see most people going from, more urban areas to more rural areas. Just generally speaking, like if you live in an apartment, you're maybe moving out like in your own house in a neighborhood, and then the people who are in those are moving out to like small subdivisions, and people in the subdivisions are going out to like the country houses. It seems like everyone's kind of just taking a step back away from the center of towns. We're going from a really remote area to a kind of remote area. So it's, but we're still going to be out in the country. But yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of people are
a lot of shifting.
At least up in our area, the amount of people from Boston who are moving out to where we're at, who now can work remotely, who realize like the city is not the place to be. It's quite a change.
Do you think they'll still vote the same? It's a $1 million question, right?
So, I don't know. At least, so I've got, in the last year, we've had two people, what I consider neighbors where we're at. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere, but two fairly close people who moved from, one moved from Boston, one moved from Concord out to where we're at. And both of them are getting out of the city because they want to be, it's kind of the reoccurring theme is freedom. They don't want to be tied into those boxes. The one neighbor who moved from Boston, I don't know where he's finding his ammo, but he is shooting more than I can imagine.
I don't know where he's finding his ammo.
But that's what
you got to ask him. It's
but
now it's like asking where to score drugs. It's
right.
like, who's your dealer?
Exactly. So, I feel fairly confident that I think he's kind of getting into that where I'm into guns. I'm out in the country. I'm trying to be more self-reliant. Maybe that, I hope it doesn't, I've never really I haven't had political conversations with either of them. I'm just kind of assuming,
they're going the other way.
They're going the other way. And and maybe they were the other way before. They just felt like they were trapped.
It's time.
So, I think in order to move from a big city to go out to the country, you kind of have to have a little bit of that mindset of self-reliance. And I'm curious too, like what's going to happen in a couple of years as far as the long term. Are people going to, are they going to realize like there's no Uber or Lyft where we're at? There's no food delivery. There's one restaurant in our town. Are they after, a couple of years, they're going to be like, man, this sucks. But, so, I don't know. and then want to go back to where there's more civilization.
Well, the good thing about New Hampshire is you're not too disconnected. You can take a 20-minute ride and be in a little bit more of a budding area. If you're on the other side of the lake, it gets a little tough.
Well, but I mean, where we're at, I mean, it's an hour plus to Manchester. It's an hour to Keene, and we're only 35 miles from Keene, but just the roads suck. Like it's a tough road. So, I would hope that they'll see kind of what the benefits are as far as being out on your own, having that freedom, having that lifestyle where you're not being crushed down by some ridiculous government.
Yeah, I mean, you hope. That's always the hope. Now, you manufacture all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
Run the people down some of the things so they know.
Still number one thing that we make by far, custom suppressor covers. So when someone comes onto our website, there's a bunch of different options as far as color options and the length and the diameter. Camos, yeah, weird colors if you want. But that's that's something that we really take a lot of pride in as far as being custom in other suppressor covers. So you pick all the colors you want, the length and diameter, and we make it, and we've developed a really good process that like streamlines that. It's pretty, the manufacturing side of me geeks out on that.
Flagship product.
Yeah. And then, we make a bunch of different support bags so you can rest your rifle on either the front or the rear. So when you're trying to, take more accurate shots, you have that nice solid surface to shoot from, so you can shoot off weird, barricades and obstacles. We make rain covers. And another big product of ours is our ammo storage. So we have, these binders where they can store anywhere from 10 to 120 rounds,
custom loads.
Yeah. And so, it kind of replaces those hand loading plastic boxes that rat around and suck.
Yeah.
So doing that stuff. And then just kind of like different bags and pouches and stuff like that. So, and we've got a whole host of stuff that, really a lot of it focuses on the long range. The majority of products focus on that, but we have a whole bunch of other stuff as well. We just released one of the products that I had the most fun developing was our bino holster, our chest bino rig. It has some cool features in it with stuff that I spent well over a year tweaking and working on the design, and again when we go, it was a whole process as far as kind of listening to customers, talking with what they liked, what they wanted to see changed with stuff that's already out there, because we're not the first person to do a bino chest rig, but we listened to a lot of those people and took all those things and put it into a package that really performs well, and then what was cool is we took and found ways to make it efficient and accurately here in the U.S. and that like the pattern on that bino chest rig is pretty cool. If I was to like lay it out, you'd look at it and be like, how the heck did you get to that? It may be just a kind of a simple thing, but we did a lot as far as like making it an efficient process.
All made in the USA.
All made in the USA. All made in our shop, and that's something that not a lot of people can say. In our shop in the USA.
Now, where does it go from here?
Boy, there's so many. I've got piles of patterns that are done, ready to go. We're just waiting to get people trained up. So that's the big push is trying to get more sewers trained up, because the sewing skill in the U.S. is pretty well dead. So everybody that we're bringing on is starting from scratch, which is almost in some ways we found is nice, because it's a clean canvas. So we mold them in the way that we want to see. Sometimes when people come from a very heavy home sewing experience, there are some things that you do when you're home sewing that are fine because you're making one or two of something. When we're trying to make 1,000, we cannot be sitting there and pinning all these pieces together first. Like, that's not how we do it. We find a way to fixture it, jig it, something. So we don't do that. So yeah, that's our big thing, is just getting more people up to speed so we can do some of these cool designs that we have ready to go. It's just people. Yeah. And so finding the right people, and that's I'm really excited about this expansion that we're going to go through, because the whole purpose of this expansion is to find more people so we can do these cool things.
So if you're out there and you sew,
yep,
and you're into soft goods, and I know it's a dying art, find these guys.
Yeah.
Look up Dustin, look up Cole Tac, go check them out. Everything's made in the USA. I can attest. He brought a bunch of stuff for us to screw around with in here. He's been doing it for years. It's amazing. The quality's amazing. Everything is phenomenally produced. I've been in the shop. I've tasted the goods.
Yeah.
I know what we're dealing with here. I could tell everybody that these guys are doing it right, and it's 100% made in the USA. And everybody out there listening, support these brands that are made in the USA, and you'll find they'll support you back with unlimited support in terms of you need it replaced, you need it taken care of, you're looking for something custom,
right? Yeah, we had a guy the other day ask us for a barn red chest vinyl pack because his kid really likes red, and I'm like, well, it'll take a couple weeks for me to get it into the queue as far as when we're scheduling, but sure. Like,
why not? What's the craziest request you've had to be made?
Oh gosh. I mean, we've had.
Maybe you didn't make it because it was so crazy.
I mean, we get. The hard part is we get requests to make stuff all the time. The hard part is people don't understand the amount of time in development that goes into some of these products.
Right, they want it now.
Well, they want it now, and they don't want to pay for the development. Like, I'll spend, hundreds of hours developing a product. Tens to hundreds of hours developing a product, and that's valuable time that it's expensive.
So what's the craziest?
I mean, that's a good question. I've never been asked that.
Toilet seat cover.
We have had lawn chair. We've replaced lawn chair
webbing
and stuff, and it's like. Come on, guys! You bought this chair at Walmart.
72,
right?
72.
Right. You bought this chair at Walmart for $20 back in the day, and you want me to fix it for a couple bucks, and so we get a lot of that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, we haven't had toilet seat covers. We've had some truck coverings. People want to have a full out camoed vehicle cover.
That'd be a fun one, though.
Yeah, it'd be cool, and it's just
a lot of material.
Right, a lot of material. And now honestly, with some of our tools that we had, it wouldn't be that hard for us to do. We can do some pretty cool stuff with technology, like taking pictures and being able to lay stuff out that way. We're definitely. I'm kind of as far as the technology side, for how small we are. We do a lot with technology, and we're not afraid to try new things when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it doesn't scare me too bad anymore.
And I'm proud to say I may have given the next $1 million idea.
Yeah,
so stay tuned. Don't keep that top secret.
Okay.
All right, listen. It's been an hour and a half. We got to go. Appreciate you.
Dude, I really appreciate you having me on. It was great.
You like it in here?
Dude, the man cave. Holy cow, this is awesome. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I like just having conversations.
You'll be surprised after how much it tires you, though.
Oh, I mean,
mentally,
you're right.
Just kind of burnt,
right?
After doing these, and I do fucking 3 or 4 of these a week,
right? But I enjoy it, and I enjoy it because I don't have to do it 3 or 4 times a week, and you enjoy it because this is what you do, I would think. But
right.
But it is probably taxing.
Yeah, it's a little draining.
Yeah,
but I love it too.
Right.
I feed off the energy of the people. When people chime in or people comment, I watch them. I'm reading them as they go by, and I see people say certain things, especially support of the U.S. businesses and things you're doing, and I kind of gauge their reaction, and it's fun. That's fun to see go by.
Yeah.
All right, listen. Appreciate you. We'll put the link for Cole Tac down below. Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can reach you.
Well, it's our website, www.coletac.com. And on there's a contact us page. You can email us through there. We got a phone number. We actually, that's something that I don't know if my customer service people will.
They'll do the best they can.
Well, but no, they'll probably slap me because sometimes the phone just rings off the hook.
Yeah.
But I like the companies that when I call up because I have a question, someone actually answers the phone, and if they don't know the answer, they at least will find the answer, and they'll, so there's a phone number there. Social media, we've got a couple different accounts there that go directly to me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Direct
direct.
Can't ask for better. I want to thank all the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com for a complete list of sponsors. If you haven't left a review on iTunes or everywhere podcasts are, please leave a review, a thumbs up, download an episode. Go listen to a second episode if you liked this one. I want to thank Gallo Technologies. Guys, I appreciate all the thumbs ups and everything and all the comments. We're doing the best we can to answer them. So please, share the video, share all the content. It's greatly appreciated. I'm reading a lot of that stuff as it goes by. I really appreciate all you guys out there. Go check out Gallo Technologies, Rhino Metals, Enforce Weapon Lights, Blackwater Ammunition, Volquartsen Firearms, Right On Optics. Special thanks to Volquartsen. Did I mention them? Volquartsen and Kenzie's. And I want to thank everybody that supports the show. To all you guys that have been listening in the last few episodes and tapping thumbs up. It goes a long way. I'm paying attention. The staff's paying attention. It means a lot. Go support U.S. businesses. I'm really happy to have Dustin on and have him talk about Cole Tac and talk about, everything that's been going on with him. And these businesses, especially in the soft goods market, are rare to come by. So please, if you can, when you're purchasing something, take a look at it. Take a look at the label. Be a little aware. I get it. You can't buy every pair of socks and every T-shirt made in the USA. It's hard. It's hard to even find. But please, do yourself a favor and try to support them. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody. We're going to roll the reel.